welcome to Time Travel Tuesday. My name is Emery, and this week at Billings Farm we are learning all about sheep and wool. So, using Fannie Farmer's 1896 Boston Cooking School Cookbook, we're celebrating sheep by making chocolate caramels. And instead of regular cow's milk, we're using sheep's milk. Feel free to use cow's milk if you would like, because sheep's milk might be a little hard to find. But side note, I have not tried this recipe using an oat milk or an almond milk, but feel free to do so, and it's always a great time to experiment. So let me walk you through what I've measured out for our caramels today. The recipe is very simple, and caramel might be a little bit daunting, but I'm glad we're doing this together so I can show you how easy and fun it is to make some caramel. So here I have measured out a little less than 2 cups of molasses, a little container with a half a cup of sheep's milk. I have 1 cup of light brown sugar. You can use dark brown sugar, really doesn't matter. I have 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2.5 tablespoons of butter, and 3 squares of unsweetened baking chocolate. Now, if you can't find squares of baking chocolate in the store, 3 squares is the equivalent to 1.5 ounces of chocolate. So find the darkest chocolate you can, and if it's not in a little pre-measured square, just measure 1.5 ounces and you're good to go. So the first step in our recipe is we're going to melt the butter in a small saucepan, and then add to that, when it's all melted, our brown sugar, our milk, and our molasses. So I'm going to throw the butter in the pan here. And then I will meet you all back over at the stove when this is all melted. So my butter is almost melted on the stove, but I just wanted to take a minute and explain the importance of having the pan that you're going to pour the caramel in once it's all finished prepared before you start adding your ingredients to the melted butter. I'm using a really well buttered 8x8 square baking dish. Choose something small because then the caramel will be a really great thickness. But once you get caramel going on the stove and you don't want to overcook it, it's really important to have your pan prepared before you start. That way you can just pour it right in and you don't have to stop and worry about overcooking your caramel once it's finished. So I'm going to stick this off to the side. And then as you can see, our butter is now fully melted. It's not really super hot, which is good. We have it on sort of a medium flame. And at this stage, we're going to add all of our other ingredients. So we have our brown sugar going in the bowl. Got a little stuck on the bottom. We have all of our molasses. Pour that right in. Scrape as much out of the container as possible. It's very sticky, so it might take a few scrapes around with your rubber spatula. And then the last ingredient that's going to go in is our sheep's milk. So very gently, you're going to stir the whole mixture around till everything is, well, you really want to get the brown sugar wet and everything mixed in and not sticking on the bottom. And then continuing on sort of a medium flame, we are going to heat this mixture up until all of the sugar dissolves. It's going to take a little while, so I'm going to continue to stir my mixture occasionally, and then we will meet you back here when all of the sugar has dissolved. My mixture on the stove has been heating over a medium heat for about 10 minutes. It's nice and runny and pretty smooth. How you can tell when your brown sugar is dissolved is when you stir it around, you don't feel grittiness on the bottom of your pan. So that way you know all the sugar has dissolved, you don't have any still in your mixture, and again, it's nice and smooth and pretty runny. So before we add our chocolate, we need to get this mixture a little bit hotter, and we're going to bring it up to a boil. So it's okay to increase your flame just a little higher above medium. We'll get the mixture to a good sort of rolling boil, and then we'll be able to add our chocolate. Alright, so this is what you're looking for with your mixture. As you can see, it's getting a nice rolling boil. I'm going to give it still an occasional stir around. I did switch pans because I realized my saucepan was too small, and I wanted the mixture to have enough room to be able to bubble up and boil without spilling over the side of my pan and then burning on my stovetop. But once your mixture is at this boiling stage, we're going to add in our squares of baker's chocolate, so I'll pour those right in. And then mix this around until they are completely dissolved, stirring constantly. You won't feel a chunk anymore, they'll get nice and small, but we just want to make sure that we're stirring the whole mixture. And then we're going to continue to boil this mixture, and when you can see it will sort of start to get a little bit thicker, we're going to begin to test how the caramel is done. And I'm going to teach you how to do that without using a thermometer. Our lovely, delicious chocolate caramel has been boiling for about 5 minutes. You can see the mixture is getting a little bit thicker, definitely starting to coat the spatula. I've gone ahead and taken my spoon and then just dumped a little bit in a bowl of ice water. It's mostly cold water with 1 ice cube floating around. And then with your fingers, you're going to pick the little blob out. And you see how it's sort of still a little bit mushy? Basically, when you pull the mixture out, you want it to form a very firm ball, almost like a Play-Doh that you're going to play with but still be soft. So this is still pretty mushy, so that means we need to just cook our caramel a little bit longer. And then feel free to test it as often as you want by taking your spoon and then pouring a little bit into the water until you reach a nice firm ball consistency. When I have that, I'll show it to you guys, and then we'll be ready for our caramel to be poured into our prepared pan. So this is our second test, just a couple of minutes more. It's a nice soft little chunk of caramel, but it is holding its shape. So it probably just needs just maybe 1 or 2 minutes more, and then we will be ready. And again, we're going to give it a test just to be sure. Okay, so our caramel, the last test you can see, I'm going to just take it off the burner here. It has formed a really nice solid ball, and it holds its shape as you press it down. So this is the consistency you're looking for. So I've removed my pan immediately from the heat when I saw this little shape, and then gonna dump my spatula off to the side, dry my hands, and then pour our caramel into our buttered dish. Nice and evenly all around. Since it's mostly liquid, it'll spread out. Don't worry about the consistency that it is now, because as it cools, your mixture will definitely firm up. And you see the constant stirring has left no burning on the bottom, so it's really important to be able to make sure that you stir so that way you don't get any sticking. But I'm going to scrape the rest of it out, and then we will let this cool, and once it's cool, we'll be able to cut your caramel into squares for everyone to share around and enjoy.